As always, we start with our roll call. Kayla?
Here.
Fred?
Here.
Nora?
Here.
Myself, present. Dusty?
Here.
Melissa?
Here.
And Patrick.
Here.
Are there any amendments to the agenda before we move to adopt?
Any amendments? I've got some that's got to be cleaned up on the Kalamazoo and Bloom report. Commissioner comments H.
We're not reviewing minutes yet
I'm sorry.
for tonight's agenda.
Gotcha. I was ahead of things, ahead of schedule. I was off the schedule, so it's a good thing you didn't hear me.
All right, seeing none, can we get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
I move we approve the agenda. I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Now we can review the minutes from last month. Fred, what would you like to say?
Under H, Commissioner comments, we need to clean up a little bit of that on the Kalamazoo and Bloom ancient garden beds report. Okay, I'm talking about, there we go, I hear it now. H, Commissioner comments, Kalamazoo and Bloom ancient garden beds report's got to have a few things cleared up on it. Okay. Food sovereignty coordinator. Wyatt, it says severance.
Yes.
Food sovereignty coordinator. And he's with the Gun Lake tribe. He was from the Little River Band. Is that correct, Kayla? I don't know Wyatt's last name. Do you know, Kayla? Not offhand, or?
Not offhand.
Okay, so we'll stay with Wyatt. But he has joined our committee and given us some really good ideas how to go forward. And there's one more. I think in the page 3 of 3 at the top, some good ideas with what could be done or planning. It should be something else. Some good ideas with what could be done on planning, probably done for plan. I'm not sure what was said there, but I think it needs to say there's some good ideas about the planning of this, so I think for planning works. That was what I noticed when I looked over that. Let me look down real quick. Yeah, that was what I noticed there.
Well, while we're in H, that was H, right? Yeah. I think we need to start a new paragraph at Harris, comma, and Harris should actually be Paddock? I don't know. Paddock.
Yep.
She was the one who delivered Dusty's report, and Dusty is spelled with an I, not a Y. And then to clarify, there were some mentions of locations for cemetery cleanings. It is Mountain Home, not Mount Home. If we go back up to F2, the budget amendment, about 2/3 of the way down, says Vale. We thought we had this our hands around. I think it should be we had our heads wrapped around this.
Close enough, sure.
Something like that. And those are all the notes that I had. Anyone else? All right, can we get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Thank you. brings us to public comments. We have one person in the audience. Pam, would you like to approach?
I freaked out about the budgeting conversation, as you probably knew that I would. I'm glad it's been worked out, and especially glad that I now understand how it's going to work. I also think that calls for a group, perhaps the group that we brought together last year to work on whether or not we would have a gift program and how we would figure that out, to at least put together some sort of a budget so that we're not running around at the last minute trying to do that. And that leads to a conversation about having, I think, a regular planning calendar for the KHPC, because that will lead us into budget discussions or help guide budget discussions if we know that we have to start planning Preservation Month in February. We know there will be costs associated, so the calendar and the budget, can kind of work hand in hand. That's just a suggestion, but it's one that I have worked with before and has been fairly successful. I also had a question about the encouraging community-wide engagement discussion that I wasn't able to understand exactly what was going on. I think I missed a meeting, but I see that is on the, it's F2, so it's going to be discussed later. My biggest concern is that I may be working with an old work plan for 2025, because mine at the top still says diversity, inclusion, and whatever, and if that hasn't been amended and replaced with this or whatever this comes from, then it probably should be, just for clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Were there any submitted public comments previously?
No.
That brings us to our reports section, starting with the financial report.
Yep. Financial report looks the same this month as it did last month. When we're looking at the city funds, nothing has changed as of yet, so we're still in the same spot that we were. It goes for the expenditures and for the balance, rather the balance and then the expenditures. So everything is the same there at this moment. I guess I'll entertain any questions that folks have with that first.
So there's been no change since last meeting, just on what we discussed last meeting.
In what regard?
No updated information there, and what we did last meeting was sufficient to remedy any sort of issues the city had.
Yeah, I have not heard otherwise.
Okay,
So,
all right, good.
thank you for asking.
All right. We'll be talking some money later on, but I think that's it for now.
Yeah, we can look at I guess the O'Connor stuff too dovetails nicely if you want me to take that one as well.
Go for it.
So when we look at the fund summaries, I didn't pull them for May. May comes between June and April, so I did not pull them for May. So I think that's why some of the numbers it looks like a bigger gap than usual. I think that having the May context would have helped, but it's not a substantial amount of money, 500 down for the Ocon one, and then, I don't know, $90 down for the other one. Not a big deal. We will bounce back, I'm sure. So if anyone has questions for that, please do let me know. And then Pam included her report that I expect folks read through as well. And Pam, apologies for not getting your other one in until today. I thought that I put all 3 in, and then it completely slipped my mind to put your comments for F in there, but I did include them in today, so sorry about that.
Yeah, that was on the other topic.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I guess my question would be, we're meeting tomorrow about the grants for this year. Are we going to trust the applicants' schedules and then request to move the money like 2 months before their expected end date, or how do we handle that now to make sure we can be on time?
I think that we could wait even. I think we can wait as long as we want. There's no stipulation written into anything that I'm aware of that says when we need to pay them necessarily, so we could wait even until the 4-month mark when we know that the work needs to be completed before we transfer it, to make sure that we're retaining the money inside of the account where it can generate interest for as long as possible. I don't know if people disagree with that or not, but not trying to play anyone at the end of the day and say like, hey, we're going to take forever to get you the money. I think that Kalamazoo Community Foundation is a reputable enough institution that if we followed their guidelines and we know when the money's going to move, we'll get the money moved in time.
Well, it's just a matter of filtering it through the new city account.
Yes, I agree.
I guess we'll find out how long
Yes.
it takes. All right, any questions or comments on the O'Connor Fund report? Yes, Pam?
To respond to your question, I actually think we should probably wait until the job has been approved, assuming that we make a grant, because the money is still available between 15 and 30 days from the request date.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we could look at 4 months or when the work has been completed. I mean, obviously we want to see when the work is completed, but we could use 4 months as a placeholder to say like that's when we're going to be looking at, because that's how long
Roughly.
we've given them to
Yeah.
complete the work. So if we needed to have communication with folks, we could tell them that as well. But I agree that we want to see obviously approved, completed work before we're going to disperse the funds to the awardees.
Thank you.
You are right that, Kyle, tomorrow we are having the review here in this building in the community room, so right next door, for the review of the applications that we got in. We got 5 applications in. Kayla and I completed our reviews around the 29th, the end of last month, and then we sent them off to the rest of the committee with all of the other materials. Kyle, I hope that you were able to get into the folder.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you were on it the first time, so I don't know. I didn't see it in the link, so I don't know what happened the first time, so I apologize. But not a bunch of reading, to be honest with you. It was pretty short stuff, and I look forward to getting back together with the review committee tomorrow and going through those. It's an exciting thing to be able to look at those again.
All right. That brings us to E3, City Hall designation effort. Another report submitted by Pam on that, summarizing what's happened and what still needs to happen. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Yeah, so there's the update noted 527 there. Any questions or feedback on that subcommittee effort?
I just had a quick question. So I noticed that it said, the subcommittee and former KHPC member met with the city commissioner, Chris Pradel, and I was just curious why that commissioner? Was it just kind of like his schedule was open, or, because I asked because I thought that in one of our previous meetings, Luis, you mentioned about how previously there had been more of like a city commissioner liaison for the different committees within the city, and so I was just wondering if it was connected to that too.
I don't think that we have one anymore. I think that at one point there probably was a direct liaison, correct, Pam?
I'm sorry.
I'm sure that at one point there was a direct liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission from the City Commission.
Direct liaisons to everyone
Yeah.
in the city that was a city commissioner at one time, 15 to 20 years ago.
Okay. We have like 30 plus, probably even a low number, commissions in the city of Kalamazoo, like these citizen-led advisory / quasi-judicial committees. I don't know if the plethora of committees caused the commissioners to not make those connections anymore, or if there was just if it just fell off people's radars over the years as well. But I don't think that Pradle is necessarily assigned to this commission as the official city commission liaison.
I think it was just Pam's idea for personal acquaintance and someone who she thought might help spearhead resurging the effort.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. Thanks.
All right, number 4, cemetery cleaning report. Thank you, Dusty.
Yeah, so I did join with Gary's group on the 31st. We worked with Stryker, actually. Does quite a bit, I guess, with cleaning veteran stones. So we're open Riverside doing that. They also reset several stones, or raised some of the veteran stones that have sunk. So that's a pretty normal bit of work. Yeah, they have several dates coming up. I know Louis, we had talked about how to boost their signal to get that cleaning information more known. Gary's doing a great job with working with groups like Stryker to get a sizable number of volunteers to come out. But that also leads me to wonder who else is working with that. Gary has quite a bit of outreach. The Catholic group right now is defunct for the moment. They had some changes at the church, and the cemetery is no longer a focus for cleaning. So really we just have the one group, which is Gary's. I'm not aware, they haven't announced any other, the tour that came through last year, they're announcing their dates in September or in the autumn, so we don't know if they're coming back to Kalamazoo or not. That's the 48 state tour that goes across the country teaching people how to clean stones. So that's up in the air. Really, our biggest thing right now is what Gary's doing, which is pretty sizable. He does have a cleaning happening on the 14th, which is going to be working on pioneer stones, cleaning and preserving those. That's at 9:30 over in Mountain Home, if anyone would like to join us. I have talked with I'm not sure if it's in my notes previously. So I have had some input from Evan on the booklet that we're working on. I haven't given Lynn access to the booklet, but she had some great feedback on ideas. Kind of want to talk to Gary about that too, since he's also looking at a lot of stuff. I did want to mention, I know I'm kind of babbling, I apologize. The JCs are doing a cemetery tour in the fall. They're getting that group back together. They do Kalamazoo ghost tours. That's coming back. Also, Gary's looking at doing an interactive, actor-driven cemetery tour of, I believe, Mountain Home. So there is interest, there is some pushing of the history and the knowledge. I'm not sure yet how best we partner with that to help promote and support their efforts. I know we talked about the website. Louis doesn't think that's the best way to promote. I don't know how much spread the Grave Squad has on their mailing list. Do you know how large that is?
Not offhand.
Not offhand?
Did I
Okay.
give you the login info?
No, not yet.
No. Are we supposed to not do that because it's a Gmail account? Or?
No clue.
Cool. All right, well, I'll share that with you for sure.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 dates coming up for throughout the summer for Gary's group. I'm not sure he needs a lot of support from us, but I do know he's talked about the city partnering with other efforts in the past. So I do think we should work on that relationship and just keep that going. That's really what I have right now. We are going to be discussing later, now that things are a little calmer in both of our lives, getting more of a handle on this publication. Yeah, that's kind of what I have for the moment.
Sounds good.
I can ask about sharing the Gmail. That was something that Sharon had started, so I
Right.
don't know the ins and outs of it, but I can certainly ask.
I mean, I think I still have access, I just haven't logged in a long time.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had any of that stuff, to be honest.
Someone sent out an email in the last months. I think I got something, so.
Maybe I shared it with Luis.
I haven't used it.
Also, there was no like automated, I had to like cut and paste everybody onto the list.
Oh, dude.
Maybe you're better
Make
with
that
that
a
stuff.
better experience.
All right. Any other questions or feedback on the cemetery cleaning subcommittee report? Brings us to F, discussion and action items. Luis has a suggestion for the regularly occurring expenditures for Historic Preservation Month and awards.
Yeah, so this one's kind of turning into a head scratcher for me this year. So I want to say it's been like 2 weeks ago, but it could have been less time maybe, that I reached out to Michelle Johnson to let her know that like, hey, you won the award, and I haven't heard back yet, which I think puts us into a bit of a conundrum because we only have one awardee. The question becomes, is it worth reserving a space and holding an award ceremony for one awardee if we don't know that they're going to show up, obviously, right? The alternative becomes just printing off the award and presenting it to Michelle. I know she holds events at her building for the Institute of Public Scholarship, so I wonder if there could be any tie-in there. I just think because we only made one award this year, I wanted to present that to you. This came up after I wrote the report as well, so just something for you all to consider while we consider this monetary vote.
So you're asking for feedback on our opinions on the matter currently?
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes sense to skip it if we don't even know if they're going to show up and we can't make a video.
And I think we could still make a video post. Like, I think that that's still possible, and that would be something that's
Certainly.
a lasting legacy that could float out there. But, you know, this year was certainly a weird one with lots of things, right? We missed the boat for May in the first place, and now we're looking at coming up halfway on June in 4 or 5 days, and those are just things that I don't know. They were on my mind as we looked at renting space. I can explain all these things, obviously, to the awardee as well, but.
Maybe we could like push it to next year and award and work with her with more time maybe and combine it next year potentially.
Yeah, so that happened one of the years during COVID, so that's certainly something we could do. I mean, we could still print off an award, give it to her, and then have something in place to hand out next year if we did that as well, so.
I remember before she was a little bit tricky to pin down just a schedule in the past.
Yep.
And
A busy individual for sure, and you know, I just want to say, if people are watching right now, on the interwebs, this is no way to say, like, we don't want to give you a ceremony. I think it just truly has to come down to the fact that we only had one awardee, right? We know that we're trying to get a firm handle on our finances, and we want to be fiscally responsible with things. So if the timing doesn't work out, we will go through all of the other processes that we usually would, like making the video and getting the award printed off. I'd be more than willing to speak at a Institute of Public Scholarship event, you know, to present the award to her, and then we could have a formal award ceremony next year. You know, we heaped a lot onto ourselves this year with revising the rules. We did not have a lot of applications come in. You know, they only came in for 2 institutions/people truly this year. So I think that also made it interesting. So I would be comfortable with looking to next year as well if the commission would be.
I think once we establish contact, we can make that call and discuss it with the organization. But we can still plan ahead for future months and events by taking this action, I believe, if everyone else feels comfortable. or has any input on that. But we would need a motion summarizing all this to vote on.
You could just have a motion to approve reservation of money not to exceed $350 for the use of the Historic Preservation Awards of Merit 2025, or some variation thereof.
Well, we did like a in perpetuity thing for the mailings that happen every year. Can't we do that? So it's,
Oh, yeah. You could also then just say on an annual basis,
yeah.
funds not to exceed $350.
And obviously, if costs change, we can adjust later, but
Cost would change, I mean, like build in, yeah, you could just make a vote speaking, I guess, about, yes, I don't know how you guys want to build in contingent. One award this year, obviously, so.
Yeah. I'll move to recommend approving the budget for the Historic Preservation Awards of Merit not to exceed $350.
You could make a stipulation about an annually recurring basis if you wish.
And this can be on a recurring basis.
and do we need to specify an account?
Your prerogative. Giving you guys, what do you have to say, Pam?
I have a question.
Can't hear you from back there, though, on the recordings.
I'm sorry. I'm just as bad as some of the rest of you. Does that include the money you need to have an award prepared? A
So that's what I was-
framing cost and?
That's what I was just saying. So this year I built it in for one award for roughly $50, I think.
Okay,
So, I mean,
it's both.
yes, so I included everything for light refreshments, the reservation of the space, which I'm very comfortable with continuing to use KNAC. I think that that's a centralized location within the city geographically. And then, yes, I did build in this year for the,
Okay. Thank
cost
you. I
of
just
the award.
I didn't hear that
No,
discussed.
yep. I think another thing that I really do want to look at for the future as well is utilizing the bar that they had at KNAC. It seems that that's something that we'd be authorized to use. There's a slight uptick in the charge for that. We wouldn't be paying for the booze, but we'd be paying for the bar to be open and someone to be tending bar, and I think it would be nice to have at the award ceremony the option for adult beverages to be served instead of just lemonade. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. There is a motion on the floor. But there is the question of the accounts, if you guys want to specify. Right.
And this money would come from the O'Connor 1 account,
It's the
from the
operations.
spendable portion of the O'Connor 1 operations. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then we're always voting in the affirmative, and we'll do a roll call as listed previously. Yay or nay. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes. Yes.
Say it again.
Yes.
Nora?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dusty?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Great. Unanimous.
It was 3 yeses on my part.
You're just extra emphatic, I guess. All right, so that brings us down to the encouraging community-wide engagement discussion as submitted by, I'm guessing, Fred?
Well, it wasn't, the background of convening the committee did not happen this week. I talked to individuals. The last meeting we had was a month ago. And what was discussed in the individual conversations is what's on there, what to do going forward.
Yeah, so if someone else wants to jump in to interrupt me. Fred and I had a phone call just kind of discussing the next steps that we were going to have. Pam, this has not been reflected, I don't think, on the work plan because it was just a change where they thought that this was I think that sometimes when we look at DEI things, people think that that's obvious. I think there's a growing sentiment that DEI things should permeate everything that we do all the time, obviously, right? So this was kind of a name change to reflect that this is something that we believe in more than in just name, first of all, and it was a way to make it I guess, more inclusive in name as well. So that was the change there. But as far as I know, it's the same subcommittee. It was just a change in name. So the name can be reflected to change, so everything can be on the same page as well. First.
That is goal 1, correct?
Yes, it's the same thing. Just wanted to clear that up first. So Fred wanted to talk about kind of what the next steps are. We got this letter put together, right, that we wanted to mail out to groups that we've identified that are affiliated with or probably primarily composed of minority individuals in the community. I think that we've discussed this a lot in the past, right, that if we're going to do this and offer up services, we need to understand that we're going to be fitting in a helping capacity, and we're not going to be driving any of these ships necessarily, right, because that's the right thing to do. Fred kind of asked then, what does that help look like? And there's also then questions about capacity, right? How are we going to be able to guarantee that we can actually have an impact on these things, and it's not just lip services of us saying, we're going to help you out, and then we turn around and say, oh man, we don't have enough capacity, so we can't help you out. I think that there's a lot of things that we can do that are relatively low impact that a lot of us, I think, are involved in history in one capacity or another, and we understand some of the ins and outs of doing history. And that's not to say that folks associated with any of these groups do not have a background in history or understand it, but some of the little things, I think, make a big difference when you're looking at research. Some of the little things being like, what are some of the resources that would be available to folks, right? So not everyone may know that you can get on the entire Kalamazoo Gazette just from the Kalamazoo Public Library's website, and it's fully searchable if you have a library card. It's a huge resource that's really big. Other people might not know that, Kalamazoo back in the day had 2 primary newspapers, and they had different political affiliations. So if you're looking for something in one of those newspapers, you might not find something that you want to see based on the political affiliation of the newspaper at the time, right? They would never shoot themselves in the foot and go against what that political affiliation was. And understanding those differences, I think, is really important. I think one thing that I've really come across a lot of times that people struggle with is just learning how to optimize their search terms and how to use search bars and understand how to use advanced search terms and weed out all of the noise that you get when you're searching. If I'm looking for something that has the word "and" in it, I'm going to get every instance of "and," and that's enough to really make you pull your hair out. And I think that can be really discouraging to a budding researcher. I think that there's a lot of books that people don't know about the history of Kalamazoo in particular that exist. I've kind of been going a little bit too crazy of buying them recently when I go to the library, but they're kind of the big 3 that we always talk about of Walking Through Time, 19th Century Homes in a Midwestern Village, and then Kalamazoo Lost and Found. But I think that there are really some niche ones too, like Kalamazoo, The Place Behind the Product, or Upjohn. There's an Upjohn book with, I cannot think, Keep the Quality Up. I think like A Century of Caring is the title of that one. Memoirs from Sue Parrish, I think it is Sue Parrish that wrote a memoir. There's a lot of these niche books that people might not know about as well that could have little things that you don't know that are in there. So bibliography of sorts would also be extremely helpful as well, in my opinion. I think that these small tips are things that we can really share with folks to help them navigate doing the research. Obviously, if someone asked us to help facilitate research or do research, and one of you lovely people thought that you had the capacity to assist them in doing that research, it's completely your prerogative if you wanted to pursue that. But I understand that, we have side projects, we have jobs, we have families, there's other things that are going on. So again, these are low impact ways, I think, that would help folks out to understand how to do research and how to do reliable research, right? I think that that's a really big one that I get concerned about a lot. Not taking something and necessarily just running with it because you heard it one time, but digging in and seeing, can we find something? Flip side to that coin, obviously, that history's not always written down, so I think that then there's a lot of merit then in listening to these groups too and understanding some of the oral history things that they're looking at or other modes of history that we might not be considering, and this can obviously be an opportunity for a lot of reciprocity, I think, to understand and learn from the groups that we're looking into and exploring as well. So I think, in short, to address Fred's concerns, we don't want to put out a service and offer a service that we can't deliver upon, but some of these things I think are really valuable ways to help people carry out research and do it in a way that I think you teach some of these tools to someone once, they would be able to apply them in so many other places because they are so translatable to different areas. So that was kind of the gist of the phone call. And Fred, if you have anything you want to add, or if anyone else has anything they want to add, please feel free.
You mentioned steering them towards KPL as a major impetus we could put out and emphasize. A workshop on research was brought up, and what you're just saying, maybe a workshop, but basically wanted the board to hear this too before we moved any further and get ideas from everybody else about how far we can go with helping the public with some of the list of things we have on that committee. Yes, Pam?
I haven't seen any of the work that you have done so far, but I would like to ask how doing research directly relates to the duties and responsibilities of the Historic Preservation Commission, and what specific historic preservation documents or resources will be included.
One of the things we sent out in that letter was that to help with the research. It was one of the points in that letter.
Research what, though?
And that's what we're trying to determine. That's what we're trying to figure out by discussing it. Research building. One of the things done under Sharon's board, and you probably were involved with this too, was a way to research your house. Direct thing. That's something we could. That's something we could do again. Keep that going forward. It's out there, I think. But we just wonder if we could enhance on that somewhat.
I see. Okay. Thank you. I'll do my best to show up for the next meeting.
Well, I'll do better at keeping you in the loop. You were traveling and kind of out of it, so we'll coordinate better next time.
I think some of the vagueness that you're probably picking up on, right, is I don't want us to get into a position where, we're painting ourselves into a necessary corner, right, where we're saying we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and that's it. And research is rather open-ended, and I think it's something that a lot of people do struggle with is understanding how to conduct reliable research if they are not from a historic field in any capacity, right? I think that I really noticed that sometimes with some publications that you can pick something up that you might have read in a book that had, you could look at someone like Dunbar who didn't have any citations, and if he said something one time, people can really pick up on that and then lean into it, which is not always good at the end of the day, right? And again, I think the big thing that I really want to focus on is that we make sure that we're always taking the back seat and we're letting other groups know that we're just there to assist and we're not trying to guide them in any direction necessarily. So I think that also lends itself to the vagueness that we're having here. If people even want to participate, people might not even want to take us up on the offer of assistance in any capacity. But yeah, I hope that and coupled with Fred's answer some of your questions.
May I?
Yes.
I just would like to make sure that my Historic Preservation Commission retains its focus on preservation. History is important, and it's one way to help you learn about preservation. But preservation-focused research, I think, is what I would like to see available if it were going to be made available to me. How do I do the kind of research on that? How do I find out whether City Hall is listed on the National Register of Historic Places or someplace in my neighborhood, those kinds of things. I see those very closely related to preservation, but teaching someone research skills they can be used for anything, genealogy, for example. So that's just my opinion.
Completely.
And I know we're doing committee work here, so.
No, completely agree. And I think if we look back at our duties then too, we can see there's a lot of vestiges from the initial incarnation of the historic stuff in the city of Kalamazoo about documents and gathering documents and all this kind of stuff are outlined in the duties, right? My real concern is that if we're looking at groups that have been historically marginalized and we expect them to care about something that they've been marginalized from for forever anyways, I don't know if we would get interest, right? I think that we have a long history of marginalizing folks from historic preservation in America in general, So if we can find other ways then too to say, like, there are other things that we certainly care about saving as well, I think to me, that's really important, and I want to look at expanding, and we've talked about this for a long time, right? Expanding outside of some of the traditional norms of preservation. And I think that we can certainly have the room to do both of those things. Fostering an interest in buildings then is something that could also develop out of that, but I think that collecting the history of the whole city and having a holistic view of it is also a really important thing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So to be continued.
Yeah, that's kind of what we wanted to, somewhat we wanted to hear when we discussed, we wanted to put out what we're working on and make it everybody aware of it.
And as stated on the report, still including a future diversity report.
I just want to add that I ran into Fred over at the Kang Library doing research on, I think wasn't plat maps, which is what I was there for, but you were doing other things about your house, and I was honestly just fascinated that you could even find as much information as you were finding. So I do think there is some powerful stuff that we can share that could be as simple as, not go talk to Lynn, because we don't need to stick everybody on Lynn, right? But plat maps, I had no idea that was even useful, and some things you were looking at were equally cool. So I think we can do the research and keep it focused on properties. And Nick was research to know that people wouldn't even know where to look, so.
All right. Is there a coordinator's report in here? I'm at the end of the packet.
No, I didn't have anything really, and I didn't put it in there, but I guess I can wax poetic here for a little bit. First, I'll say it's obviously warm in here today, so I'm sure that amping it the bit a little bit to get out of the room anyways for those watching at home, because I'm sure that we have a lot of people watching at home this evening. It is very warm in the room tonight. There was just nothing really of note. I think that we addressed my big thing that I was concerned about, which was the Preservation Awards of Merit, because I don't want people to think that it's just fallen off the radar, but the moving pieces are really hard to tack down sometimes. I just sent out an email to you guys during the meeting of the dates. Dusty, I apologize. It was supposed to make it into the packet, and I don't know if it was a copy error or something, or paste error, but I just was looking at mine, and those dates didn't get put in there, so I forwarded that out to everyone. I blind copied everyone because we should not be talking to each other over email if there's more than a quorum in the emails, because that's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. I had to have a discussion regarding this as well with the HDC, so I just want people to be aware. The attorney told me that people can be held personally liable for that if there is a violation of the Open Meetings Act as well, so just want people to know that that's the reality of the situation. You can send out a communication to folks, but you can't have a discussion on that same thread. So that's why I blind copied everyone on it, but I sent it out to you all. I won't be able to make this weekend's cleaning because I'll be out of town, but those are great opportunities to go to as well. So feel free to get out there and enjoy the time for a little bit of time or a lot of bit of time. I think it's great just to show up and be out there.
Typically, they don't go much past noon, so it's a morning commitment. It's not too bad.
That is all that I have, though.
I'm also going to say, apparently, there were like some storm damage as well, because Mountain Home got hit pretty hard, I understand.
All right, thank you, Luis. Commissioner comments. Anyone else have anything to say this evening?
On the Ancient Garden Beds Committee with Kalamazoo and Bloom, we've got some information about Menominee, Michigan, and it's been put out by NPR and a study done by Dartmouth that some ancient garden beds existed up there, and the state archaeologists kind of mentioned them to me at the conference, and that's something new we picked up on the committee, that there's an excellent location for that. But
Menominee is up there. It's very UP.
like Wisconsin, really.
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
Sorry, I just was going to add one thing,
Yes.
just to also kind of help. I think when Fred was giving a couple of edits for the meeting minutes last month, and just kind of, talking about a couple of folks that had joined that committee. Right, so I think that was good. That was helpful, Fred, that you kind of made sure that, it was noted that there were 2 folks that joined, that work with the tribe, the Gun Lake tribe, and so they are tribal members, but right, so their work with your garden group is because of their affiliation with the tribe versus, and that's just an important kind of thing to, like distinction, right, so like having, folks affiliated with things because of their, like working with a tribal government versus, like having tribal citizens or tribal members, right, like on an individual basis. So I think that was a good kind of clarification. And I too just wanted to add, because, since y'all know that I do work for the Gun Lake tribe in their TIPO department, and the second person who joined the garden group is Rebecca Roop, and so she's also one of my colleagues in the TIPO department, and I too just wanted to kind of further distinguish that their work is more on the project to help with the 3 Sisters Garden that I believe is going to be planned for next year, and not necessarily on the research for I guess because with the group calling itself the Ancient Garden bed group, there's a bit of a distinction, so they're not really the tribe. So I'm just trying to say kind of badly, but their work is not more so in the interpretation that I think in the research that your group wants to do, because we tribal citizens, but also the Gun Lake tribe would contend that it's not ancient garden practices, and that tribal citizens and the tribal government is continuing that work on gardening, food sovereignty that isn't just happening a long time ago, but those continue into the present. So I just wanted to kind of add a couple of notes on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. And I think that ties really well into the community-wide engagement things, that there can often be things that are brought up by groups that I think are probably well-intentioned, and when we look at words like ancient, it insinuates that there's that practice ceases to exist, and it also lends itself to saying that these people do not exist anymore when we look at the word ancient. I know that that's the word that's been used by Kalamazoo and Bloom, but I think, again, that's why it's so important to reach out to the folks that if we're going to be researching a group of people, right, it's really important to get the input from those group of people for the further interpretation to understand, is what I'm saying considerate of what I'm trying to say, is a really big point, I think, to make sure that there's no offense that's transmitted through any of the reports that are conducted as well. So thank you for those clarifying remarks.
I'll pass that on to the committee.
Thank you.
I also have a comment that I would like to make just to update the group. Earlier this year, Western announced that they were going to be tearing down a few buildings on East Campus, and I want to just update the group that Vandercook Hall, the demolition project has started on that. I think they began on May 27th, so just for people that are in the area interested, I've gone by the building a few times just to see, but I believe they're doing hazardous waste and hazardous material abatement at this time, and then they're going to be moving into demolition July through August.
I drove past it this morning, and they had just a sea of paint cans.
It's demolition of what?
Vandercook Hall, it was one of the first men's dormitory on East Campus.
It's hard to keep track of all of the construction work, because I walk my dog on campus often, and just seeing more of the main, I guess, campus, but there's a lot of A lot of construction.
Thank you, everyone. If there's nothing further, we will adjourn this meeting. Good night.